So let's go about writing some JavaScript to handle the JSON that we're requesting from the page. So right now, if we look at our handlers, which are right here, I'm going to get rid of that log print line because I know that works, so I don't care about it anymore. I'm going to leave this as a GET request in routes right now. We'll change it to post before too long, so we'll leave it as a GET request right here. And we're going to think about what we're going to do. So let's go back to our web browser. Let's bring up the site, which hopefully is running. No, I've got to start it up. There, it's running now. So I can bring it up, and this is the page we're going to work with. I'm going to do the generals quarters to start with, okay? So I want, when I click this button, I want it to send an AJAX request, asynchronous request behind the scenes without reloading this page, get some JSON, and process it. So obviously, one of the places we have to do this is in JavaScript. So let's go to our layout page, and I'll close this down here. Let's go to we put all of our main JavaScript on the base layout. So the base layout is right here. And we go down to the section called prompt. And the internal function from our JavaScript module that we're calling is called custom. Now, obviously, you've probably noticed this right now. This is not a generalized function. We're only going to use it for one thing, and that's to display this dialog box. Obviously, if you were making this more generalized, you wouldn't be calling the HTML elements by ID in a generalized function. You'd make it more open. But that's not our purpose today. Our purpose today is just to make this work. So we need to make some changes to this. So right now, what happens when you call this function is you pass it a message and a title in a JavaScript object, which then set the values on this variable C here, and we use that variable down here. So when message is specified here, it becomes this message here, which is tied to the HTML member on that particular object. And then we check to see if before it opens, we do some things. We initialize the date picker, and after it opens, we do the whole removing the disabled attribute. And then after that, we have this. Just pop up a box that shows us what we entered. So back on this page, if I actually open this right now and put in two dates, 25 and 26, and say OK, it pops this up and shows me what I entered, which just shows me that I know I'm able to do that, which is great. But that's not what I want to do at all. So what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to, right at the top of this, that's OK. Yeah, this value of form values, I'm going to rename that to result, just because I like that better. And I'm going to get rid of this down here that pops up the dialog box that shows us what we entered. That's not useful at all. Instead, I want to check to see if we actually have a result. So if result, in other words, if there's some result coming back after this dialog box, after somebody clicks OK on this dialog box, then I want to see what that result is. And SWAL has a couple of things that I can check. So I can say if result.dismiss, which is built right into SWAL, if that's not equal to, exactly equal to, and the operator here is exclamation mark equals equals, which is to say exactly equals to, and I'm going to check what one of the built-in reasons that SWAL has. SWAL.dismiss reason, and you can see this right in the SWAL documentation, the Suite Alert documentation if you want to, .cancel. In other words, if they didn't hit the cancel button, then check to see if we have any actual values in the result. If result.value is not equal exactly to an empty string, then I want to do something. So what I've done here is say, it's really straightforward. If I have a result, and that result is not because they've clicked the cancel button on the window, and the result is not exactly equal to empty, then do something. And what do you want to do? Well, I actually want to call a callback. I want to execute some JavaScript back on the client page that happens when someone fills in that form. So I have to check a couple of things here. First of all, I'll say if c.callback, c is the variable we specified way up at the top here. Okay, so what we're calling it, my calling code. If the callback is not equal exactly to undefined, so there is a callback, and I better spell undefined right. There we go. then inside of that, I want to do something. I actually want to call that callback, c.callback, and I want to pass it the result, what they've entered, okay, or what I got back. And then if the result value is exactly equal to nothing, then, else, c.callback, and I'll just pass it a false, so it doesn't do anything. And then one more else. If the result is dismiss, cancel, in other words, the else for this part, if they actually click the cancel button, then I don't want to do anything. I actually don't have to do anything, but it's good practice just to say, call my callback and pass it false again. Now this should do some things for us. Nothing yet, because we haven't done anything, but it allows me, because I've done this, it allows me to actually process code after the SWAL dialog is closed. In other words, after they click the submit button or the OK button or whatever I've chosen to label it, then I should be able to do some actual code on my generals page. So let's go back to our generals page where we're actually making this call, general page.tmpl, and get down to this part. In order to make this more useful, I'm still going to pass it message, but I'll put it on its own line. I'm still going to pass a title, but I'll put it on its own line. And then I'm going to put a comma after this one and give it another attribute, which I am going to call callback. And this is what's called by the code we were just working on. And callback is actually a function. So it's a JavaScript function, and it takes an argument of result, what's handed back to me by the suite alert or by our JavaScript module. And inside of that, right now, I'm just going to say console.log called and see if this works. So what's happening here? Once someone calls attention .custom, it pops up the dialog box. They choose some dates, they click enter, and then after they click enter, because I have a callback function defined here, and I've passed that as part of my arguments to the custom method on my JavaScript module, what's inside callback will get executed if result is not empty and result is not filled with, I click the cancel button and not the submit button. So this should work. So let's go back over to our web browser and let's reload this page to make sure it's current. And I'll open the JavaScript console here and I will open this up. Check availability, okay? So it's giving me a little warning there. You could ignore that. That warning's been there for a long time and it actually does nothing of value. But I'll now choose the 25th and I'll choose the 26th. And when I click OK, I'm hoping to see a console log over in the JavaScript console. And I do. So that's been called. And that's actually kind of helpful. But I can do more than that. When I do this call, when I do this callback, I don't just have to console log. Here's the part where we can actually execute some JavaScript code that will perform an AJAX request. And JavaScript has a nice little package called fetch. And fetch will do exactly what I tell it to. Go to this URL, which, if I recall correctly, is search availability-json. Okay? So that's what I'm doing, is saying, go to that URL. And right now it's a GET request, which is fine. We'll change it to POST eventually. After you're done that, .then, so after that's done, get the response, whatever is handed to us, okay? And give it an equal sign greater than, which is an arrow. Get the response to JSON. Convert the response to JSON, which is built right in. So I don't have to do any magic to convert the JSON I'm receiving into JSON that JavaScript can deal with. And then once that's done, then after that, what do I want to do? Well, I'm going to take data. And data is just my nicely parsed JSON into something I can deal with in JavaScript. And I will just do that as what I want to do once I get that data is after this pointer in curly brackets, all I'm going to do now is say console.log data. So let's save that and see what happens. So I reload the page. I clear the JavaScript console. I check availability. I choose two dates, the first and the second. I don't know, I got a long date, so it doesn't matter. So the dates don't matter at this point. So I've got dates in there, and I click OK, and let's watch the JavaScript console. It was called, and it gave me back an object with OK false, and message is set to available. So it did exactly what I wanted. But how do I get the OK or get the message. This object is useless to me. Well, I can do that too. Console.log data.ok. And then I can do the same thing underneath it, but say data message. I'm referring to the elements that are stored in that data object, which were parsed by this line right here. So when I save this and reload the page and clear the console and choose two dates, the first and the whatever it is, let's go with the second there, okay. And now I get my object, I get my called printed to the console, showing that it's actually working. The object is printed to the console, then the object.ok and the object.available, which we refer to as data OK and data message. So it's all set. So now we know we can make a request to our handler, our JSON handler, and we can actually parse the request. And now that we have this information, the OK is the one that's really important to us, we can take some action. And we'll do that in the next lecture. But we'll also change this to a post request.